My name's Anna Evteva. I am a professional dog trainer, animal technician, and specialist in domestic animal behavior. For more than 25 years now, I've been helping dogs and people find common ground with each other. I've worked with a huge number of dogs in my practice, both aggressive dogs and those who simply needed behavior correction. I also work with dogs who are just beloved family pets. Welcome to our big family, where dogs are well behaved and bring you joy. Dog Gear: How to Choose Safely, Comfortably, and with an Understanding of the Purpose. Today, we're talking about a topic that only seems simple at first glance: collar, leash, harness, adjustable leash, care beater. Many people think these are just accessories. The main thing is that it looks nice, is convenient for the owner, and preferably more expensive or recommended by someone. But in reality, gear is a part of your dog's everyday life. It's something that directly affects the comfort of your walks, safety, control, the quality of training, and even how your dog feels its body in motion. And that's exactly why there's no universal answer here. There isn't one best harness for everyone. There isn't one perfect leash for every situation. There's no collar that will work equally well for a puppy, a calm adult dog, an excitable adolescent, and a large, powerful breed. Today, we're going to look at gear not as a trendy purchase, but as a tool. And a good tool is one that fits a specific dog, their age, anatomy, temperament, the purpose of the walk, and the skills of both the pet and the owner. Today, we'll do a deep but easy to understand review of the main types of gear. We'll figure out how they're different, what their pros and limitations are, who and when they're right for, and most importantly, how to choose not the prettiest, but the most truly suitable option. The main principle: gear should help, not hinder. Let's start with the most important thing. Good gear shouldn't chafe, restrict movement, interfere with breathing, cause constant tension, make the dog feel uncomfortable as soon as it's put on, or be complicated and dangerous for the owner to handle. And one more important point: even the best gear won't solve behavior problems on its own. It doesn't replace training, won't teach your dog not to pull, won't automatically make walks calm, and won't fix anxiety or overexcitement. But the right gear can really help you avoid creating extra problems. Let's start with collars, because that's usually the first piece of gear most owners get to know. The classic collar is the option that comes to mind first for most people. A regular collar with a buckle, a ring for the leash, and adjustable sizing. It's the most familiar, straightforward, and common option. It goes on quickly, doesn't take up much space, is often convenient for everyday life, and for many dogs, it really is a good basic solution. The classic collar is often suitable for calm dogs, dogs that don't make sudden, powerful pulls, and works well for short city walks as an everyday option. Its advantages are its simplicity, ease of use, and how quickly you can put it on. It's convenient if your dog already knows how to walk gently on a leash. What are the limitations of a simple classic collar? It's not always comfortable for dogs that pull hard, for anxious or overly excited dogs, for dogs with sensitive necks, for those who often make sudden starts, or for dogs that know how to slip out of their gear. Now that you know more about collars, it'll be easy for you to figure out whether it's right for your dog and if it matches your walking style. Another key factor that many people underestimate is the size and width of the collar. People often choose them just by looks. Some prefer thin and elegant ones, while others like wide and sturdy ones. Let's figure out why appearances can be deceiving. How do you measure the neck? You should measure the neck snugly. Your fingers shouldn't fit under the measuring tape where you plan to put the collar. If you don't have a measuring tape, use a piece of string or thread, then compare it to a ruler or measuring tape. How do you determine the size? A lot of people think you should pick the size with the biggest adjustment range. In reality, you should choose the size where your measurement is close to the middle of the adjustment range. For example, your dog's neck is 38 centimeters. You look at the size chart and try to choose between SM, which is 30 to 43 centimeters, and M, which is 37 to 53 centimeters. You should pick SM because with M, there will be too much extra length that you won't use, and it will just add unnecessary weight to the collar. Small breed puppies grow actively until about 6 or 7 months old, medium breeds until a year, and large breeds up to a year and a half. Keep this in mind when choosing the size. The width of the collar isn't just about looks, it also affects how the load is distributed. You shouldn't pick a collar size by eye. Always measure your dog's neck and add some allowance, depending on the collar's design. And the width of the collar should match the size of your dog. A collar that's too narrow on a large active dog can dig into the tissue more when pulled. The collar that's too bulky and heavy for a small dog can just be uncomfortable and feel rough. So, a very simple logic applies here. The gear should be proportionate to your dog in size, weight, and how it feels on their body. More specifically, in each case, choose the width based both on our recommendations and your own visual preferences. A width of 10 millimeters is suitable for dogs up to 3 kilograms and for any cats. A width of 15 millimeters is suitable for dogs from 3 to 7 kilograms. A width of 20 millimeters is suitable for dogs from 5 to 9 kilograms. A width of 25 millimeters is suitable for dogs from 7 to 25 kilograms. A width of 38 millimeters is suitable for dogs from 15 kilograms. A width of 38 or 25 millimeters is suitable for dogs with thin, long necks or for medium breeds from 8 to 20 kilograms. And as an example, if you have a Beagle, Shiba, Corgi, or any other breed over 9 kilograms but under 20 kilograms, and you prefer wider collars, feel free to choose the 38 millimeter width. Your dog will be comfortable and it will look great on them. The next type of collar we'll discuss is the martingale collar. This is one of the most useful options for certain dogs, but it's also very often misunderstood. A martingale is a collar designed so that when tension is applied, it tightens slightly to a predetermined limit. Its purpose isn't to choke the dog or cause pain, but to provide a more secure fit and prevent the dog from slipping out easily. Its safety and comfort depend directly on proper adjustment. A martingale should fit snugly and securely, but not create a feeling of tightness. Its purpose, when tension is applied, is to gently tighten just enough so the dog can't slip out, especially if it pulls backward or suddenly tries to get out of the harness. But if this type of collar is initially adjusted too loosely, it loses its purpose. The dog will be able to slip out of it easily, and if, on the contrary, it becomes too tight, it won't work properly and will start to cause discomfort. That's why it's important to regularly check the fit. A dog can lose weight, gain weight, build muscle, or shed its coat during seasonal molting, and all of this affects how the gear fits. A martingale collar is suitable for dogs whose neck is as wide as their head, or for dogs whose neck is wider than their head. For example, I'll name a few breeds for which a martingale is especially well suited based on their build. These include bull terriers, greyhounds, and basenjis. A martingale is especially useful if your dog can easily slip out of a regular collar. It's a good choice for skittish dogs where extra safety is important, or for dogs going through an adjustment period when it's crucial to reduce the risk of escape. It's important to remember a martingale doesn't teach your dog not to pull, and it doesn't replace training. It's really effective, but only when it's properly adjusted. At the end of our lesson, you'll get a detailed step-by-step guide on how to properly adjust a martingale collar for your pet. It's also worth talking separately about ID tags. An ID tag is a small detail that can play a crucial role. It's a form of identification for your dog, where you usually put the owner's phone number, the dog's name, an additional contact, or other important information. If your dog gets lost, runs away, or slips out, the ID tag is what allows the person who finds them to contact the owner right away without having to search for a microchip. Where is the best place to keep the ID tag? Should it go on the main collar or on a separate cord? Let's look at both options, and you can decide which one works best for you. In the first option, the ID tag is attached to the main collar. One advantage is that this method doesn't require you to put anything extra on your dog. There are fewer separate items you need to keep track of. It's convenient if your dog always wears their collar at home and on walks. On the downside, if your dog slips out of their collar or the collar is removed, the ID tag stays on the collar, not with the dog. If you use different sets of gear, you might forget to move the ID tag. If the main collar breaks or gets lost, your dog immediately loses their identification too. In the second option, the ID tag is on a separate thin cord or a separate non-removable collar. One advantage is that the ID tag stays on your dog no matter which walking gear they're wearing. Even if the dog slips out of the main collar or harness, their identification will stay on. It's convenient if your dog has several sets of gear. It lowers the risk of forgetting the ID tag when switching harnesses or collars. On the downside, it's an extra item on your dog's body. It's important to make the right choice so that the cord or separate collar is lightweight, safe, and doesn't get in the way. If you pick the wrong one, it can get twisted, snag on things, or irritate your dog. No matter which option you choose, remember this: an ID tag doesn't replace a microchip, and a microchip doesn't replace an ID tag. These aren't mutually exclusive solutions, they're two layers of safety. A microchip is an important official form of identification. An ID tag is the fastest and simplest way to get your dog back home without any extra steps. That's why, when it comes to responsible gear choices, an ID tag isn't just an extra accessory, it's a basic safety measure. Since we're doing an honest and thorough overview of dog gear, it's important to mention the other options that are still available on the market and that owners are interested in. These include slip collars and prong collars. Yes, these options do exist. Many people know them from old school dog training, from everyday advice, or from recommendations to quickly stop a dog from pulling. These kinds of options are not a universal or safe everyday solution for most owners, especially beginners. They don't replace understanding your dog's behavior, they don't teach connection, and very often they're used not for the right reasons, but out of frustration, irritation, or the desire for quick results. When the gear stops being a tool for comfort and control and starts being a tool for pressure, it almost always means that a more important layer of work has been skipped somewhere: training, understanding the reasons for leash pulling, adapting the dog, or working on excitement, fear, or self control. So, if you're considering these options, it's better not to look for a harsher solution, but instead to ask yourself, what exactly isn't working right now on walks? And is there a way to solve it in a more thoughtful, skillful, and safe manner? Let's move on. There's a separate category of functional collars where safety at night, rather than control, comes first. Light up collars and collars with built in lighting. In fact, light up collars and models with built in lighting can be very useful in winter when it gets dark early in the evening, in low visibility conditions, if your dog has a dark coat, or if you're walking in a park, an open field, along a road, or in places where it's important for your dog to be visible from a distance. This isn't about behavior correction or anatomy anymore, but about everyday safety. And as an additional feature, this option can be very appropriate. There are also special solutions for dogs that walk off leash in certain conditions, or for dogs that are prone to running away. Collars for off leash walking, beepers, and GPS collars and trackers. Beepers are most often used with pointing and hunting dogs. These are special devices that help you track your dog by sound at a distance when it's working in the field or in difficult terrain. GPS collars and trackers aren't everyday collars for everyone, but specialized solutions for specific tasks. They don't replace a dog's skills, supervision, or safety, and they don't automatically make any off leash walk safe, but as an auxiliary tool in certain scenarios, they can be useful. GPS collars and trackers are extremely important for skittish dogs and dogs prone to running away. If your dog reacts sharply to triggers, gets scared by loud noises, new objects, vehicles, other animals, or people, and in a state of stress can break free, slip out of their gear, or run away, such a tracker can become an important additional safety tool. It doesn't replace a secure fit of the gear, behavior work, environmental control, or gradual adaptation, but in the event of an escape, it can significantly increase the chances of quickly locating your dog and finding them before they get too far or end up in a dangerous area. This is especially important for dogs who are in the adaptation stage after moving, for former shelter animals, for dogs with pronounced anxiety, and for those who already have a history. It's also important to be aware of signaling gear. In international practice, there is a well recognized signaling gear called Yellow Dog. The idea behind it is that if a dog needs space, a noticeable warning item, most often yellow, is put on the dog. This could be a collar, leash, bandana, patch, vest, or another piece of gear. This kind of signal is used if a dog doesn't handle contact with other dogs well, is recovering from illness or surgery, is in training, is experiencing stress, has age related limitations, or if the owner simply doesn't want unwanted interactions during walks. It's important to understand that this isn't an official unified law, but rather a system of polite communication between dog owners that is accepted in many countries. When people see this signal, they understand that they shouldn't approach this dog without the owner's invitation. Now, let's move on to harnesses. In recent years, the harness has become a symbol of a more modern and gentle approach for many dog owners. And there really is some logic to that. A harness often helps distribute the load across the body, not just the neck, and in many cases turns out to be more comfortable for both the dog and the person. Harnesses can generally be divided into three main groups: the anatomical walking harness, the three strap or anti escape Houdini harness, and the sports harness. The anatomical walking harness is the option that becomes the basic, everyday solution for most dogs. If a dog walks in the city, lives a regular domestic life, doesn't participate in pulling sports, and isn't prone to suddenly trying to slip out of its gear, then most often we start with the anatomical walking harness. An anatomical harness is a harness that doesn't interfere with the dog's natural movement. It shouldn't cover the shoulder, restrict the movement of the front legs, interfere with breathing, or create a feeling of stiffness. When we're talking specifically about an anatomical walking harness, the most successful design is considered to be the Y-shaped construction. The letter Y is visible from the front. If you look at a dog wearing the harness head on, the front part of the harness visually forms a shape similar to the letter Y. One central strap runs down along the breastbone, while the side straps branch out to the sides, wrapping around the body without covering the shoulder area. That's the main point of this design. It frees up the shoulders, doesn't sit across the front of the body, and doesn't interfere with the front legs moving freely. If the harness is poorly designed, the dog starts to move less freely, may shorten its stride, change its movement mechanics, or compensate for the tension with its body. The advantages of a walking anatomical harness include that it distributes the load more gently across the body, is more comfortable for active and energetic dogs, is convenient for puppies, young and adult dogs, and is better suited for long walks, trips, and city life. Anatomical harnesses come in different designs. Harnesses made from straps are the most straightforward and common option. The design consists of straps that are connected at the necessary points and can be adjusted for size. They're lightweight, easy to use, highly adjustable, and convenient to fit different sizes and body types. Harnesses with a wider section on the chest, similar to a vest, are those models where the front part is broader, softer, sometimes made of fabric, or designed like a small vest on the chest. These harnesses can be convenient for small and miniature dogs, for puppies, and for sensitive dogs who find narrow straps uncomfortable. Their advantage is that they often feel softer and more gentle. But it's important to remember that this type of model still needs to fit anatomically. Even if there is a wider, softer part on the chest, it should not restrict shoulder movement or prevent the dog from walking freely. Another useful type of walking harness is one with a soft edging or lining. These models may have soft trims along the edges, a lining made from a gentler material, or padded areas where the harness touches the body. These options are especially convenient for short-haired dogs, dogs with sensitive skin, for longer walks, or for dogs that are prone to chafing. Their purpose is to make the harness's contact with the body more comfortable. But here, it's important not to focus solely on how soft it feels. Even a harness that feels really nice to the touch won't be good if it doesn't sit properly, slips off, or sits on the shoulder incorrectly. How do you adjust a harness? Adjust the front straps to fit the base of your dog's neck. Lift your dog's front paw. Its shoulders shouldn't touch the strap or have its movement restricted by it. Important, make sure that after adjusting, the straps are the same length. Move the front paw back. Adjust the top and bottom straps so that the rear straps are far enough from the armpits and don't touch the leg. Adjustment mistakes. The front straps are adjusted incorrectly. They rest on the dog's shoulders and interfere with the free movement of the front legs, restricting motion. The top and bottom straps are adjusted incorrectly. Because of this, the rear straps are too close to the armpits, causing chafing and restricting free movement. Pay attention. If your dog takes shorter steps in the harness, moves tensely, or changes its gait, that's a way to check the fit. A properly adjusted harness does not restrict the dog's movements. The front legs have a free range of motion, there are no straps on the shoulders, and the rear straps don't chafe the armpits or touch the dog's elbows when walking or running. And it's also very important to remember, you need to check the adjustment regularly. A dog can lose or gain weight, change condition, shed, build muscle, or mature. What else should you pay attention to when choosing a harness? Besides the design, there are a number of very practical details that directly affect the comfort, safety, and lifespan of the harness. These are exactly the things owners should pay attention to when making a purchase: adjustment by straps and the number of adjustment points. The better a harness can be adjusted, the easier it is to fit it to a specific dog. That's why when all the straps are adjustable and there are 6 adjustment points, you can perfectly fit such a harness to a dog of any breed and any body type. This is especially important because even dogs of the same weight can have very different body shapes. One might have a deep chest, another a narrower body, a third a long back, and a fourth pronounced muscles. The tightness of the adjustment buckles. Sometimes a harness seems to fit well during the initial fitting, but on a walk, especially if the dog pulls, jerks, or moves actively, the straps start to slip and all the adjustments get messed up. It's important to pay attention to the quality of the adjustment buckles. Height adjustment buckles lets you set the harness properly once and not have to readjust it every few days. Stitch quality. Stitches are no small thing. If the stitches are rough, stiff, thick, or poorly placed, they can rub the skin, wear away fur, and cause constant discomfort. A good sign is when the stitches are sewn outward, so the harness doesn't chafe or wear away fur, no matter what breed the dog is. Neck buckle. This is a very underrated but truly convenient feature. If the harness has an extra buckle at the neck, the owner doesn't have to squeeze the dog's head through the whole thing every time. For many dogs, this is much more comfortable. Webbing material and ease of care. It's very important to pay attention not just to the composition, but also to how the material feels. A soft, smooth webbing is often more comfortable for both the dog and the owner. Considering that a harness is constantly exposed to dust, moisture, fur, and dirt, choose materials that are resistant to stains, easy to care for, and machine washable. One of the most common materials for harnesses is nylon webbing. It's durable, relatively lightweight, and holds its shape well. But it's important to understand, not all nylon is the same. One type of webbing can be soft, smooth, and comfortable, while another can be stiff, rough, and cause chafing. That's why, when choosing, it's important to check how soft the strap itself is, whether it cuts into the owner's hand, if the edges are too stiff, and whether it might rub against the dog where it touches their body. Polyester is also often used in gear, especially in models with softer elements, fabric inserts, and vest-style designs. Its advantages are practicality, resistance to daily use, easy maintenance, and the ability to create softer and more comfortable surfaces. Polyester is often combined with other materials when the manufacturer wants to make the harness not only functional, but also more comfortable to wear. Neoprene is more often used not as the main material for the entire harness, but as a soft lining or inner layer in areas that come into contact with the body. Its purpose is to make the harness more comfortable, soften contact with the skin, reduce the risk of chafing, and make wearing it gentler, especially for sensitive dogs. PVC webbing, hexa, biovim, this is exactly the material that deserves a special mention because it's very practical and is increasingly used in gear under the names hexa and biothane. When people say PVC webbing, they usually mean a material that has a strong nylon webbing base covered with a PVC coating. So essentially, it's not just plastic and not just fabric, it's a textile base in a protective shell, which makes the material very practical for everyday use. This material is used to make harnesses, collars, leashes, adjustable leads, and gear for both small and large dogs. The main advantages of PVC webbing are that it's strong and can handle heavy loads, doesn't absorb water, doesn't collect dirt like regular fabric, is easy to clean, dries quickly, stays flexible, doesn't get stiff in the cold like some other materials, is resistant to heat and moisture, and is durable. Owners especially appreciate this material for its practicality and how easy it is to care for. Leather harnesses are less common than collars, but they do exist. Their strong points are their attractive appearance, a sense of sturdiness when they're well made, and durability. Some owners like the pleasant feel of leather, but there are some limitations for everyday use. Leather is heavier than many textile options, requires regular care, doesn't handle constant moisture and dirt well, and isn't always convenient for very active use. In hot climates and on frequent walks, it can be less practical. That's why leather is usually chosen more for its aesthetics and style than for everyday versatility. To sum up the review of the walking anatomical harness, it's safe to say that this is the type of harness most often considered as the basic option. If your dog doesn't have a strong tendency to escape and doesn't have specific sporting needs, the next group is escape proof or Houdini harnesses with 3 straps. This is an option that definitely deserves a separate discussion. This type of harness has an extra securing strap around the waist and is designed for dogs whose anatomy allows them to slip out of a regular harness. In addition to the basic straps, this type of harness has a third strap that goes further down the body along its narrower part. Thanks to this, the dog can't easily back out of the harness. This kind of harness is needed for skittish dogs, dogs with a history of escaping, shelter dogs, dogs during their adaptation period, reactive dogs, dogs that suddenly pull back when triggered, and for trips, vet visits, fireworks, or challenging environments. Its purpose is to prevent the dog from slipping out of its gear at a critical moment. This is not a stricter harness and not a way to restrain your dog more harshly. It's a safety harness. Note that there are models where the third strap is permanent and others where it can be removed. And that's very convenient. While your dog is going through a difficult period, you use the strap. But once your dog has adapted and walks calmly, you can remove the third strap and keep the more classic version. The third strap in these designs works like a seatbelt. It doesn't get in the way during a regular walk. It shouldn't be tightened too much so that nothing presses on the dog's belly. It only comes into play when the dog tries to wriggle out. As soon as the dog stops doing that, the strap loosens. Let's move on to the next part and talk about the third group. Sports harnesses are a special type of harness designed for a specific discipline, with particular mechanics and body movement under load. These harnesses aren't meant for regular city walks, but for specific activities like canicross, bike joring, ski joring, scootering, sled work, or long active routes that involve pulling. In sports gear, you'll find both Y and X shaped configurations, but they're designed for different purposes. The Y configuration in a sports harness is designed to distribute the pulling load across the body without putting extra pressure on the neck, allowing the dog to use its body freely under strain. But the X in sports gear is a different story. Here we're talking about X-back type harnesses, where the geometry itself is made for a different direction of force. These kinds of harnesses are more often used where the dog is working in a team, like in a sled. The point where the pulling force is applied is lower than the back, so a different mechanics of load distribution across the body is needed. That's why a sports harness isn't just an upgraded version of a walking harness, it's a specialized tool for a specific job. Even if you walk your dog a lot, that's not a reason by itself to choose sports gear. You don't choose it based on the idea that more movement means you need a sports model. It's selected strictly for a specific discipline, type of pulling, and load format. In all other cases, it's better to look for a good anatomical walking harness. So the first part of our gear review is coming to an end. We've covered the basics of walking gear that goes directly on the dog. We talked about the different types of collars and harnesses, and we also covered special solutions like signal gear and ID tags, which can really play a crucial role in certain situations. And if we sum up everything we've discussed into one idea, it's actually very simple. Gear is a tool, not just a trendy accessory. It should be chosen based on safety and comfort specifically for your dog. But the topic of walking gear doesn't end here. In the second part, we'll talk about what you actually hold in your hands and how it directly affects your control over distance, freedom, safety, and the walk itself. We'll take a close look at leashes, retractable leashes, adjustable leashes, and transformer leashes. How are they different from each other? In what situations is each option truly convenient? Where are the limitations? And how do you choose the solution that fits your lifestyle and your dog best?